Jai Shri Sai. There's one concept that the humanity or human society has been following since a few thousand years. The concept of God. Mr. Partha our concept general. We're talking. I'll get you to the absolute fundamentals of what this means. Among the believers, individually or as organized religions, when you talk of God, there are four aspects to it. We believe God is a ultimate, all-embracing, sovereign power. We believe God has eternal existence. All living beings have limited existence. God has infinite powers. We all have finite powers, limited powers. God has infinite knowledge. We have finite knowledge, limited knowledge. God has infinite happiness, Ananda, and we have finite happiness. When we are thinking of God, therefore, our mind is projecting from the finite in us to the infinite. The moment we talk of God, our mind is projecting from our finite, limited situation to an infinite concept. That's what it is exactly. But the infinite, as people say, is a concept, or perfection is a concept. All imperfects try to go towards that to the extent possible. Perfection is always a concept. It's a relative term. Let us say, sitting in Seattle, as I was telling this, you make a competition or a selection of the best horse at Seattle. Then you make the selection of the best horse in Washington. Then you make the best horse selection in United States of America. Then make the best horse selection in the world. You find one best horse. But that one is not the best today because yesterday they could have been better. And tomorrow they will be better. So it will go on proceeding. Perfection is an idea. Imperfection tries to come to it. That is why we come to the concept of God and what we want to get: infinite happiness, infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite existence. Now this concept of infinite existence, to be immortal, has been one of the phenomena that has been wrecking human mind from the Egyptian time before that. I was doing this pyramidology for some time to keep the bodies in mummification situation with belief that tomorrow the same soul will return. And therefore the entourage of the king with all his property will again be recovered. Yeah, there's a book of the dead by the Tibetan Book of the Dead. There's the Egyptian Book of the Dead. If you go to those, you'll find this. Let us say the concept of God was not, we are not there, what would happen? The concept of God didn't come to human race spontaneously as a revelation. It did grow gradually through the process of experiencing life with natural calamities, deaths, unknown areas they could not fathom in the Iron Age and Copper Age and later ages. They started worshipping the more powerful. Animal instinct is when two tigers fight for the better situation. The weaker tiger ultimately knows that the stronger will leave the place. The instinctive fear element. Instinctive fear. Superior power. Without the concept of a love, because a plant has got organic consciousness, an animal has got instinctive consciousness, and a human being have got intellectual consciousness. Spiritual people have the spiritual consciousness. when the human race was converting from instinctive consciousness to intellectual consciousness with the development of the cerebral capacity of the Homo sapiens, the concept of God started growing in them. Let us say one other thing. For thousands and thousands of years, they have imagined a God. And many big souls have come. Many incarnations have come. They have created a religion. They have given a lead. This part of moment, when the need comes, nature creates characters. That's my belief. They have been giving a fillip to this concept. And people have been re-stabilized. Of all the movements of human beings on this earth, political, economic, social, natural, capitalism system, communist system, anarchic system, feudalism, modern science coming, another system, dictatorship, democracy. All these things goes on changing, fluctuating in a flux over thousands and thousands of years. But for humanity, Christ remains the Christ. He has not changed. For Hindus, the Rama remains the Rama. For Sikhs, Guru Nanak remains Guru Nanak. For that is a non-changeable, although there will be change in little understanding for situational, but basically they range. So this is a much more permanent concept that is in human society. Running not only externally but subliminally, and that's where that stands its merits. We have, if this is not correct, let us say some people say this is not correct, then we also will think if this is not correct, either this is correct, if this is correct we accept, fine. I say no, this is not correct, somebody says. That means I mean to say that human society has created a phantom of God and have been perpetuating with the belief on the phantom or imagination. And this is what the 99.9% people have all put together created a phantom. They are all wrong. And I am right because I think it is wrong. Can we think that the entire intellect of the human race, the biggest brains, running through millenniums, is so wrong as to support this fantasy? This is the question to be thought. So, whether my believing or not believing in a thing doesn't necessarily prove that it doesn't exist. Maybe my approach to understanding, experience it, to go with it, has so far not been correct. Here is the difference between believer, non-believer and seeker. It is no intellectual honesty to accept or not accept a thing without experience. That is what again I say, even one in religion, one must accept or not accept. Having gone through it and experiencing, then say it is right or wrong. But repeating things like a parrot can do on religion or spirituality or God leads nowhere. It is a play of language. And languages, when they grow with concepts, I think hide more than it reveals. That's what has happened with the symbolism of language, metaphors of language. So we have to de-symbolize, make an operational language, and then try to find out what is beyond language, what is beyond symbolisms. Every religion believes in a symbolism. Because we cannot comprehend the whole thing. We have to comprehend the single object of love and compassion. Hindus have multiple of it. Hundreds and hundreds of it. We believe in Christ with the cross symbolism. We believe Guru Nanak with talwar and whatever. Simple symbolism is better than multiple symbolism. Then your focus is much better. But with a religion like Hinduism, which has come 10,000, 15,000 years old, symbolism are multiple. But we have the dominant symbolism in personalities in Ramayana and Mahabharata, which we follow. Basically, what is the definition of religion? Religion. Go to the language, operate the language, go to the basic, how that word was coined when people coined it thus. In India, all this concept had been built about 2,000-3,000 years before. The Sanskrit language, which speaks of in Hinduism, with Panini, is 400 BC. When you see a Patanjali yoga, what you were saying, Yoga Shastra, 200 BC. And when you are speaking of anything here, it is all in terms of centuries, nothing less than that. The experiment has been going on in the building of that. Sanskrit is a language which was intelligent people sat down together for hundreds of years and built a language with grammatics, phonetics, accuracy. It had been changed. That's what actually happened. How did the Indo-Aryan race, or that is European, Indo-European group, that passed through Iran, Persia, or to some other route, maybe some people think, to India. What happened? How did they come? The principle of arrival and the principle of basic religion is utilitarian. Imagine 2,000 years back, 3,000 years back, 4,000 years back, the tribal groups had only 6 hours of sunlight in Europe. They would sit near fire and they would scare people. If you go to the history, you will find all this. They would take animals, kill them, and bake them, and eat, and wait for the sun to come to feel better. They are scared of other tribal groups, of the animals, of the snakes. For them, the sun was the most important factor. When sun came, they became very happy. They gradually tried to come to sunny areas down. The sun became their symbolism of strength. And when intellect became more colorful, sun became a god, Apollo or Surya Devi. And that is why the early Aryans in India, Ramayana, Lord Rama was Surya Vanshi. That is how it came. It came as an utilitarian purpose, a sense of being protected by a higher energy form. If you go to Africa or the tribal areas of India, the fundamental tribal worship has been of wood pillar. Why wood? Because wood was the basic need of them. They will build houses. Anything they do, even when they are, anything they did was with wood. They do not get good wood everywhere. So if they get a good wood anywhere, which remains, they will cut the piece and carry with them and put a symbol in front of their village. And they will camp under a good tree. And under a tree, will try to have a little fire. So fire was a constant factor because fire goes there in trouble, then those stones. So this is called tribal. In Indians, before the Aryans came, it is called Satpathy, Saval. First. With that came another fear factor called snakes. Snakes, you see the pharaohs having the snake power here. Or the yoga of India, say Kundalini power, it is snake structure. I'll explain a little about the yoga, which is the most used but most misinterpreted word. Like the word guru itself. Most used but most misinterpreted. I'll come to these two things a little later. So the tribal pillar worship got conjoined with another tribal group which were worshipped snakes. So snake and pillar joined. So you will find many places in all over the world religions, pillars with snake formations. In our case, it became a Shiva Linga, what do you call the symbol? Snake on that, it was combination of Nagavangsha and Satpathy, tribal and the snake group. In later on history. Very interesting what I'm telling you. I'll tell you the substance of what these religions do. Without understanding the historicity, we will be stuck to what you were thinking today. And these Aryans, how did they get into India? They had the horse and the chariot. The local tribes didn't have it. They didn't have it. So the superior power of like Chandesh Khan, Timur-Lane, and all of the conquerors of the world at that time had the speed. Speed is a factor of progress, whether it be communication, of information system, or any activity where the speed is there, or US opening up railway lines and roads. First for communication, then building the civilization. Speed is a common factor. Growth means speed. This has happened. History has said it. So they came and conquered it. And they annihilated because they're superior. And they thought they were very superior. Because that was a white race. And that white race started here at that time. Nothing wrong with the white race. It was the perception of the people at that point of time. And they wanted to have the race superiority by subduing these people. Subcontinent of India. I am to give a little emphasis on India because of the Indians here, they were to the background also, in relation to. Indians were never white. They were dark, or like middle color, or copper color. That was the nature's gift to them. Let us say, nature gives everybody with color, hue, complexion, body form. Then nothing becomes small about it. But when one becomes powerful, a lame, even Timur-Lane was a lagna, lame person was zero, and never mind. That's what happened. Thereafter started four things. Aryans came with chariot. They started continuing with fire, worship of Agni, fire. Fire had to constantly burn. Because that is what they learned, if they get textbook. So started the system of Yajna in Hinduism. They got a concept of Vishnu. We worship our composer. One of the deities is the Vishnu. As sustaining, running the daily affairs, like the governor of Seattle perhaps, something like this. Daily affairs. But spiritualist. Then they brought the concept of sacrifice in tribal belts. Sacrifice for appeasing the gods. Appeasement of gods to sacrifice. As if gods were a bloodthirsty group there, or vampires, Draculas or something. But never at that time the consciousness grew that way. Because they as human beings thought was happy. When they're happy, how many goats you give him and how many cut. Their self-satisfaction with cutting an animal and eating it. So they also thought, projecting their idea, their higher powers would also be eating the same. This started. This is how it started. And the fourth concept that is Indra. In Hinduism, we have elemental differentiation. They said, for example, fire. Now, they imagine there is a particular point from which the basic point of control of any fire on the planet, let's say. That is Agni. The seed point of water. They give it a power which controls all waters. They are the seed point ruler. They call it Varuna or Jal. But at that time, four elements were there already in India. Water god was there and fire god was there. They were in all civilizations. Air god is there. But what was not known was at the time was electricity. The Aryans, like in the United States, you have so many of those thunders coming here, lightnings. There are much more lightning in Europe than in India. So lightning, electricity becomes the ruling deity there called Indra. with Vajra. Okay, a superior. Like if telephone, if supposing gramophone was one deity, hypothetically, then telephone is the superior deity. Then cell phone generation one is one set. As they go generation, there will be superior deities. These are symbolisms. Symbolisms only show the way the religion or the social structure went on changing itself, changing itself, changing itself. We shall not go for denying or belittling any religion, even in the tribal belts, because at that level of consciousness, it is this symbolism through which they got happiness and protected themselves. As the advancement of brain comes, it goes on updating itself, and they come to realize that this is not this, this is not this, this is not this. Like people thought the God is in the moon. Now I think Neil Armstrong has landed there, or Yuri Gagarin or somebody, and they did not find God there. They need to realize God there. So the concept is changing now. Concept is changing. One point I make here. If one human society, within the span of 10,000 years, on one planet of one solar system, there are millions of solar systems in which we do not know what life forms are there. Without any knowledge, Hubble has gone to some limits. Without encompassing the whole thing, its quintessence of brain, can one species on this earth have the assertion that it knows God? There's a big question mark for me. So the entire knowledge of God, which in Hindu is called Brahma, is a relative knowledge and more relevant to this system. And because it is relevant, it is applicable and we are happy with it. That is what is the question here. Now, 3,000 years before BC, 3000 BC, that was the carbon 40 test, we had a civilization called Mohenjo-daro Harappa. Mohenjo-daro Harappa civilization is one of the oldest in India. They were consisted of those people. The brownies, right? We're not brownies, but like us. They had an exodus from there, crossing the hill of Vindhyachal. If you're in India, as I was telling that day, India is itself so varied, 5,000 years. It has gone through so much of experiencing on the detailing of this nature parts of nature. And the biggest thing of India is, at that point of time, they wrote the Vedas 2,000, 3,000, more than that. They did experiment on their own consciousness. One will understand the fineness of one's own self, the relative planes of mind, if only one makes a conscious attempt to delve into his own consciousness at his own cost. It cannot be done like a chip of computer or a, you would take it off and be happy. No. For 1,000 years, these people sat in the jungles. Only one thing they did, started yogic practices or meditation procedure. They were doing nothing else for thousands and thousands of years. They did and created. Then consciousness confronted, said yes, there is some energy form there, and they gave the names. If that is the basic fundamental yoga, in 2nd century BC, 200 BC, years before, Patanjali, all yoga you find in the market, there are some brands. It was written so many years before, and he only codified. He was not the last one on that. It has been going on for thousands of years. for thousands, because when Buddha Deva came in 600 BC, or Jaina, they came. By the time they were also there, very much there. They were codified. Panini, Sanskrit 400 BC. And Sankhya Kapila, which is 600 BC. These are the three watermarks of Hinduism. We believe in Sankhya. Philosophy written 600 BC, dominated today. Contains everything. The basics of this is going on. And the second major break came in 8th century was Shankaracharya Vedanta. This is the entire dimension of it. Hinduism taught two things. Let us say, if I say how many approaches are there to play God, how many approaches are there in the world? There are three approaches. One, you worship and pray the symbols, the names, through hymns, through chantings. That is with shape or without shape. It can be, these chantings can go with shape or without shape. Some religions, they believe only the highest. They go for chanting his name. They don't believe in form. Good enough. It is accepted in Hinduism. In some religions, they do it for good enough. Accepted. This one better. The second one is, don't do anything of this. Sit quietly. Think of your own soul. Its relationship with the oversoul. Delve into yourself. Who are you? Who am I? Where I have come from? And where shall I go? Three questions. Lord Luther did it. This was the self-examination. The second method. He did not worship any deities, nothing. He adopted second method. Even Ramana Maharshi. And there have been many saints who did it. The second method. The third method is, the easier method is, if I can't do this, if I can't do that, let me cling on to a master who has already reached their experience, and let me cling on to him and get it through him. There are three. Although some of them did not need a master, they themselves become masters by going through this self-analysis and self-understanding. These are the three methods that entire human, the world race has followed so far. Now here comes another point that I make it relevant, ladies and gentlemen. What Vivekananda Swami has said, about which I have already said about in Chicago, 1893, in Chicago, the World Religion Conference, in its concluding remarks. He said, as the different streams passing through different paths, mingle in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths that men take all lead to thee. As different stream, howsoever straight or crooked, passing through different paths, mingle in the sea, so, O Lord. All paths will lead to thee. That is quintessence he has said. And I absolutely believe in this quintessence because Sri Sai Baba, a master who put me in this line, he left his body in 1918. I've never seen the master. I've read about him, but I've experienced him. Otherwise, why should I be doing all this? I was otherwise very comfortable in life. I have no problems. I never went to temples because I had a problem. Today also I don't go for that. Anything that generates spontaneity will go better than anything that comes out of a reaction. That may also be, but the spontaneity is much better. Without any string attached to it. That's what happens. In Hinduism, we use a word called dharma. Most of you must be knowing what is dharma. Dharma means religion. Okay. How do you define it? What is you understand the word called etymology. Etymology is the science of how the word came to be, grammar. I go to the root principle of a word is etymology. And that is the knowledge of defining the root principle of a word is etymology. Is a logic of it. Oh, this dharma comes from a Sanskrit root word called dhru, D-H-R-U. And the word dhru means, since last 5,000 years is defined, holding together, dharayate. Holding together in equipoise is dharma. Now, when we say dharma, we say family dharma, the dharma of the family. Means holding together the family in a certain methodology, it doesn't disintegrate easily, that is dharma. And because of this definition of dharma, in business or in the family, that if India has got anything good for sustenance, it's the Indian family system. This is, I think, I'm married for 38 years. I have difference with my wife. No? We have bad and bad, but we understand. 99% of the Indians are that. How did it come from? It comes from this dhru, holding together. We believe in physics, the law of physics, dharma of physics, in which in a nuclei, in an atom, the electrons are moving in circuits. The proton neutron center, they are balancing themselves. The moment they are disbalanced, the problem will be there will be atomic bomb. The electron will go off. Oh, so it is holding. In the sky, the nebulas, they are all rotating. Everything is motion, but they are holding each other with gravity. So when the Hindu thinks of dharma, it is not necessarily religion, it's a way of life. Cut out Hinduism as a religion, cut out Hinduism as a way of life. When you see the way of life, in spite of all the problems because of attacks and wars and conquering, etc., India holds because of the concept of family. And this dharma as defined in family. That is the basic strength of this Hindu as a race, not as a religion. Religion is different. I'm not doing yajna and puja and all those. I'm not speaking at all. What is the meaning of all those rituals? If I'm not happy ultimately. Okay. As against this definition, we come to the theory of pleasure and pain theory of Thomas Hobbes. When it came, Hobbesian theory of pleasure and pain. Whatever gives me pleasure is good. Whatever gives me pain is bad. So I shall always strive for pleasure. If it gives pleasure, it's good. And always not take pain, it is bad. Whoso gives me pleasure is good. Whoso gives me pain is bad. Absolute utilitarian theory. It doesn't have a stronger value system than this. That is where came the main problem with the utilitarian theory or pleasure-pain theory. But here the point is, pleasure-pain theory that says, pray God for pleasure only. It will always propel us. God be kind to us, give us pleasure only, that we have children, all grow. So there's a beautiful story of a man who went to the God. After death, he approaches the Lord of reincarnation, let's say, a deity of reincarnation. Then he says, boy, what do you want? I grant thee, I'm very happy with you. You are from Seattle, I'm very happy. Very nice place. I grant you what sort of a incarnation of life you want to incarnate. He said, I must be born the only son of a king, with the best of health, looking like Cupid and Goliath combined. Samson. Then my house, I must have kingdom that nobody can cross in a month with his horse. Gold and diamonds studded in my room, everything. And beautiful damsels always at my call. And then everywhere people praising me. Then a lot of incarnations say, boy, if that was possible, I would reincarnate. Why the hell present? Okay, that's a good one. Right? So that is what the theoretical introduction. We want pleasure. We don't want to accept the package of life with pleasure and pain. Knowing fully well that it will be a package of pain, there is a pain. That is what our dharma means. As a, not only a religious principle, but as a way of finding Hindus. Right? There it tries to answer one question, one very fundamental question. Is if I am born, I shall definitely die. The old immortality, the attempt of human beings to be immortal has been shell-failed because after some time, when the solar system exhausts its energy, it will become black hole or something, and the earth will collapse and merge. It will all go. All these theories will go in that. In the vast expanse of time of billions and billions of years span, it is just a whimper, if you see the time. It's just a whimper. Within this totality of time concept, where are we? Problem with us is, with our limited knowledge, we try to become the center of universe, our own little universe, and think that everything must fall in line with our wishes as we are the center of our own universe. We are particles floating like universes floating in the great void. Nobody knows where they'll go. Nobody knows what happens. We don't want to accept that we are small particles of that big universe. And there's a greater principle that is working which we have not fathomed as yet. But we want to be the center of universe. Me, mind. And that is the cause of sorrow. And that is what actually the quintessence of Hinduism said. I'll just deviate a little because you said mysticism. Just put go. If I go to one subject, it will go on. Now, one little deviation from one mysticism. What is mysticism? A lot of mist outside, no? But yes, in a way, because in mysticism, you can see through clearly through your open eyes. Just take this example, a lot of mist there. I'll go with this most ordinary language. In the mist you can see. That doesn't mean the other thing doesn't exist. With infrared you can see, or ultraviolet you can see. You may not be able to see because there's a mist. But with infrared you are seeing it. Mysticism says, the mysticism is a theory, a philosophy, and a doctrine, and a practice. A theory, a doctrine, practice. Almost in all religions there are mystics. There are mystics who never tried to explain how do they reach that connectivity with the super soul through their consciousness. With what methods? But things start happening with them. Certain things cannot be explained or understood through the cognitive faculty of the human beings because the cognitive faculty of the human beings is limited. Okay? You know, one day I had a dog. My dog died. I got another dog. I'm a fond of dog. For all this service, I'm rendering to the dog. I'm asking the dog to give me a small thing. What is that? I said to dog, give me your smelling capacity. I become a Superman. Oh dog, forget about God. Give me your smelling capacity. I become Superman. Even a lower species of perception capacity and certainly much more than human beings. If today a man comes with a smelling capacity of a dog, he will all over CNN and Fox and everything. All over the world, because he becomes I should look at a dog man. But something more than that. So very much our faculties are limited. Our faculties are not as is like a bat. It is a capacity to raise existence. With that, it is not we are not able to perceive. Dog is a mystic then. If dog can smell it, a lower species, and can catch it, why did you call it a mystic? If a human being develops that capacity and he smells something there, you call him a mystic. Oh, mysticism, they are mystic. Sufis were mystics. The Sufi word. They developed, that mysticism comes up to love for God, actual love. Okay. Of all the people that preach philosophy, spirituality, religion in the world, 99.9% recurrent people, or by 100% with the minimal exception, love the creation of God in all its aspects. Only that little bit they love God and not His creation. Not that they hate it. Their entire attitude, they love God. What is that? They are not enamored by the aspects of creation, including all the miracles, including all the material forces, including all the happiness, pleasure they foresee. So a mystic, a real saint is he will only see God. He will not see the universe around. He will only talk with the God. God, have you forsaken me? Child of God. He sees nothing else. That is the real child of God. He doesn't see the universe around. Mysticism believes. We have many mystics in India and many religions. That is what mysticism is about. I don't want to go to details of it. I don't want to go to anecdotes. There is many of them. And miracles happens. What is miracle? It's a law of nature functioning without our knowledge. We do not know, but it happens. If Marconi had not invented radio, or when he had got the radio waves and did not tell anybody, kept to himself, and he would have communicated, people would thought he was a miracle man. Laws of nature undiscovered, but happening for individuals. Knowingly and unknowingly, let me tell you, miracles are unknowing laws, not necessarily knowingly. Because I say, good saints do not show miracles. Miracles happens because of the God's wish or greater law of nature working through them. Because miracle cannot be the visiting card of a saint. Miracle creation and continuance cannot be the visiting card of a saint. It happens to them without their knowledge. When the greater force engulfs them, their consciousness merges with the higher consciousness. They do not know they exist at that time. They don't have a sense of their body, they don't have a sense of their time. That is where the complete bhajan comes. That's what would be right. Coming back from this, the other fact was Shirdi Sai Baba. Look, Shirdi Sai Baba comes from a place which is Harappan culture, don't be shocked. 35 miles from Shirdi, few years before, they found the excavation Harappan culture. That village is not having any population now, when they extruded from there. Okay. Nobody knows who his parents were. He never told. There are speculations. Nobody knows what he did. Was he Hindu or Muslim or what? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what he studied. Nothing. There are presumptions about it. I've done enough of research on this. Master. And comparative also. He came to the walking beside the river Godavari, this big river. Not like a Missouri one, too big. And appeared in the village and stayed with the poorest of the poor, begging for alms distributing that arms to other people and birds and animals. There's practice of Hindus, that's called Madhukari. When people are coming and giving money, by evening he will distribute it. To the zero stake. He was distributing money, so the British government became very alarmed. I got the records of the police of that time. They thought that he was inciting sedition. So they sent the income tax guy, the IRS man, the most, very well what it means. The IRS man came there and found how much money he used to get. These are all recorded at the time. And they levied income tax on people who used to give money because their earning was so much they were taxable. I have records. When I am talking with this master, I tried to come on empiricism to find primary evidence of things as a real cop. I would not accept anything without having the primary evidence. And I've got all the primary evidence of documents of that time. Then he started doing little medication. I think most of them were limited. Give succor to the poor, give treatment to the kind, to be, without any consideration of anything else except being a human being, nothing else. He had no consideration at all for anything else. He had so many Muslim people. He is coming to him. Abdul, his close man. Christian Chakravarti was there. Parsis, most of Bombay, they've written books. Most of the Parsis were his devotees. Cut across all. He would ask, you would know the mind, that was a great thing. And ask, what are you thinking, were you thinking this? His entire exercise was that you must control your mind. Suppose somebody wanted to go to a church, one of the devotees, or a temple, wherever, you never said no. He said, go anywhere you like. Pray anything. Is your mind clean or not? Are you doing the exercise on your consciousness and mind to clean it? But ultimately, because of the mind, you will suffer and enjoy. The whole end was this. So people started flocking around him. There's no limitations of religion. No bias of in Hindu casteism, caste system in India is very, very, very strong. He would take the lowest caste point of the time. A leper called Bhagoji Sindhe, when his hands burned, he did not allow any higher caste group to. He deployed Bhagoji Sindhe, a scheduled caste man, to serve his body till he left his body. By practice. The concept was, like a mother, howsoever bad the child is, will not have the ego of being superior. It will love, it will run with love, protect the child. So these masters are not bothered what they are. They will just go the lowest people. People who are rejected by society. Think of Christ. I mean, one of the kindest souls I ever think of on this earth. They don't see anything of this. They only see the love forces them to even annihilate their everything to save that person or go and help. They're the true divinity. Divinity doesn't recognize any differentiation. It only recognizes the need of love. It may be a drunkard, it may be a prostitute, it may be a lower caste, it may be whatever. The worse the child, the more concerned the mother. That mother element. So in Hinduism, we have defined, keeping it in mind, God as a female and mother element and father element. In some religions, father. Good. Here, the process of Hinduism is defined as a mother factor. And the various aspects of mother factor will be told. Because, to me, If there is any visible symbol of God to see in human form, it is mother. It is the mother because she cuts through herself and protects the child. Howsoever bad the mother, howsoever bad the child, immaterial. But the law of compassion wants there the maximum. And therefore the saints are not only fathers, they are mothers, dominantly mothers. And they are quintessence. Therefore, he also called as a mother. And Hinduism we have therefore gone for the mother principle of nature more than the father principle. Father principle is there and mother principle is there. So this is the pattern of Hinduism. For those who know, in Hinduism there are Dasha Mahavidya, 10 powers standing for the word from Durga. The Hindus understand. This Dasamata Mahavidya is nothing but power, energy manifested. Lakshmi is actually not the concept of Vishnu, it's the energy form of the power emanating from an individual is taken in woman form, Lakshmi of Vishnu. They have to give a definition to energy. They didn't call it energy. They gave a symbol, like you, is energy word is a symbol. They had a symbol like that. They used that symbol. Yes, yes. And these principles of divinity propel the Hindus. The most important factor of this is why Hindu society became, today you say there are a lot of aberrations, fine. But can you think of any civilization where the best of places were given to gods? All the best places, seashore, best mountain peak, healthiest river flow, everything was given to temples only. You go to Kasi, you go to Banaras, you go to Godavari, you go to anywhere, you go to Puri, Konarak, you go to Jagannath temple, mind my word. The Hindus gave the best of their places to gods. It was not a swimming beach. It was not a holiday resort. They never thought. Even today, when we build temple, the best of land that we get from our, which you can build 5-star hotel, we do not do it shepherd. This is the strength. This is one of the strengths which is holding us. The best of Jesus. So they conceptualized of giving the best. In the process of giving the best, what they did, they create human symbols and clad it with the gold and ornament like a king. And like a king, they start praying this lyricism, mantra, etc. We don't see these symbols. We see the love that propels them to give away their best. That is not seen usually when people see. They don't see. It was because of their love, they want to give the best. And whatever is available, King, Maharaja, Dhiraja, Yogi Raja, Param. We see that why it is big and iconic. That's what this is. This is the second concept. And the third concept is Hinduism is incarnation. Mysticism of Hinduism comes in incarnation. One question that human society has to answer is, if I am born only one life and die only one life, and I am born as a lame man without any cause, I suffer and die, how am I responsible? Oh, this question, if I am born in the house of a criminal, I will imbibe those traits. Because again, the God is created in genetic code. That's it. Nature is created. I will not use the word God, I say nature. If I say nature, fine. But if I put God into, I am a value adding to it. Nature is created, I say I am a child of nature, I am a mutant, an accidental growth. So nature has brought me, I suffer, enjoy, and I go away. I die. This is the animal instinct. Animals don't think of God and all these theories. They have a natural propensity to go to the place of death. The fishes go up the stream. Elephant goes to the place. Therefore, their acceptance of death is much better, easier. Because then they are not praying, God, God save me. They know the time has come, they will die. They are wiser than us. They accept God. They accept death, the terminal point, more naturally than us. That's what happens. But here, the moment you put the intellectuality of God into it, then you are getting into creating concept and becoming the slave of that concept till you die. So, the real sense never said, and this concept's out. Walk alone, my child. I'm with you, you walk. Doesn't matter. Bear the suffering and everything, and while doing so, be a little detached and see what's happening. And because this is a direct knowledge, it cannot be by language only. You have to go through the process if you have to. And I think somebody is Guru Bhagavat or something is built into it. Is it Guru Bhagavat built into this speech also?
Yes.
Okay. Why do we give the priority to a guru or master? I tell you what it is. I tell you the mystic part of it. Knowledge can be transferred if the consciousness is merged. Science will prove tomorrow. And the consciousness can be merged not through hatred. It can only be merged through love. A mother exactly knows what ails the child from a distance. Consciousness is merged. It knows much more than the doctors. What is paining the child? Consciousness is merged. Now, how did you get the merging of consciousness? The entire matrix or the mathematics, the yogic meditation, every procedure is just made nothing else to merge the consciousness with divinity. Since that is directly not possible, I said the third method to merge the consciousness with master, whose consciousness is merged with divinity. He is the medium. Now think of many of you are PhDs and somehow PhDs. You are some IT people, educated people. When you did a subject, let us say you did physics or IT, you did for 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. Only one subject of the billions and billions of subjects on this earth. You did strive very hard. You are a teacher or half a dozen teachers teaching subjects. How much the teacher looked after you will give the results accordingly. If you have a teacher who fully supports you in the subject, naturally he will go to you, will call you and teach you the subject much more. And he will go for that only if there is enough relation with you, affection relationship with you. Only one subject, it is a nano situation of your subject. But when you are thinking of having the entire subject put together of divinity, how much closeness and time you need from your master? And how many years? Unless your consciousness totally merged, there is nothing else. And you merge with it in action and everything. You lose your identity totally in the consciousness. That knowledge cannot come to you, do whatever you like. That is the entire theory as to why you become so merged, so emotionally involved with the, like Bhule Shah. You must have heard about Bhule Shah. Bhule na jaane ki main kaun. Little difference, little ego coming between that. The master will not help till that particular block of mind is cleansed. There are various methods for it. But that is why I say, a relationship for spiritual evolution with a real spiritual master, I was an XYZ, who is evolved, who has seen the path to the other side of the hill of the beautiful rivulet in which the lotus flow and vision, and has come back. Shall take you in hand holding. Come, my child, I will be on your path to this thick forest. Don't worry, I will reach you there. That's what the master wrote. I'll end my speech with 2 anecdotes. how these mystics in all religions have experienced that extra kindness of God. There was a father called Gilligan in German rights. This is a ballad of Father Gilligan. Father Gilligan was pastor. Used to go to the poor people before death, read out the Bible, would help the poor with his own food, whatever that we had, would give succor, give medicines. He just believed to love people and help them in the name of Lord. Oh, I trusted this ballad and speaking from Germany. One evening, he had done a lot of job, he was very exhausted, maybe looked up to many people. And he came, and when he came, it was evening, and the cold wind was rolling down the hills and the valleys to the meadows and the crops. And you are feeling very tired. You open that old armchair, you have a pull a hand and sleep on that. It looks like the stars started brightening and dropping on the frost. He said, God, I'm so tired. Let me have my bread and little wine and let me go to sleep. As he was going to pick up his bride, in the hearth he went and got the bread and the wine. He found a galloping of a horse. His ears were accustomed to such sounds because of experience in the Rhineland region. And the sound became louder and louder and louder and louder. He became worried, what is happening? He was just looking somebody, thinking what's it exactly. There's a boy comes, jumps out of his body and runs to the father. Father, you know what? He said, what? My father is dying. He wants to have the last sacrament for you. Then he was so exhausted. He couldn't go. He said, okay, my son, you go, I'm coming, I'm following you. Saying thus, the man goes back. He prays, Lord, Lord, give me strength. Let me have the strength to go, I'm so exhausted. Let me have a bread. But he was so exhausted, while praying, he went to sleep. He doesn't know how much he slept. Now, the cool air rolled down with the vermilion sky appearing in the eastern side. Morning comes. Vermilion sky. And the cuckoo starts, early morning birds, croak. He gets up and sees in the haze the scenario, the panoramic scenario of the valley. And he gets a shock, oh Lord, I have not done my job. I am a sinner, let me run to give succor. He jumps on his body and rode as fast as he could. He runs to the farms, he runs to the meadows, to the orchards, and reaches that house, man's house. Jumps down, comes. Mark the word. When he marks it, after some time, his son comes. Same man opens. He looks at the father, says, Father, you again? Thank you yesterday. He had a peaceful death in the name of God. So this one was divinity helping in the form of appearance, which in Hinduism we believe the multiple appearance is possible. Because he actually did, meant to do so. And where his capacity had exhausted, when our capacity do exhaust, in the name of Lord, actually try, believe me, that power comes to help in some form or the other. That's his experiential word. That's what I've seen. And any seed of thought, these thoughts are like atom bombs. Any seed of thought, if it grows and pushes us in anybody and spreads its roots, will create more flower and fruit and more birds to come and build their nests up there. So we are all. Never think that you are not closer to the divine spirit. Never think. The moment yoga means journey. Yoga means detached. You are ever in the state of yoga, join with the consciousness of God, because your life form is working. If there was yoga, for you to have a conscious yoga, they will not believe you to do so. What is meant by yoga, yoga shastra, is joining it more intensely. It is not the literally, it is metaphor, explanation of the thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I can go on, and I would like to speak much more than that. Thank you for giving me an opportunity for talking, because when I am talking, my mind is getting purified because I am replaying the pure thoughts. Rather than you're being obliged to me, I am obliged to you. That's the right way. Because I am talking about my master. I am replaying my mind. So the little dirt that had accumulated by maybe little ego that is trying to come out, let it subdue. And I always pray for one thing, what I pray, God, be kind to others more than kind to me, because you have given me enough. Be kind to others more, less than me, because you have given enough. Teach me, grow that kindness in me, quality, so that I can help others rather than me first and me all. That is why my master told, on record, 1 or 2, when Baba was there in Sydney, between 1915 and 1918 is surviving. The present magazine that he published was Global Sai Movement, 1923. But when Baba was there used to be a magazine called Sai Prabha, published bilingually in Marathi and English, published properly. That was like the daily things happening. How wonderful when the saints were there. Guru Nanak was there. Perfect master. If things could have been recorded at that time, but people don't have that. I'm only there. There are not as many people. I've seen the detailing what was happening. You will believe or not believe. Fact remains that his horse, one of the persons, whipped that horse. And this saint was crying. People start running. What has happened? He had 3 stripes here. This transference of pain. In mystical science, when consciousness is merged, the bodies react like that. Having practiced this in Hinduism for long, our forefathers, we believe this is possible, although we do not know how to get into it. We are still doing much more things superficially because the world current has changed. There's another thing, and the last thing, one of the misnomers. The science and God are 2 different things, religion. Absolute wrong. Science is not created by anybody else than by divine force to make your life easy and comfortable. Science has always been there. Attitude to science has always been there. Yoga is a science. There are sciences for different types. Today, in fact, I must say, the scientists are much more spiritual than others. Because their production for the human society is much more than what people speaking of modern religion are producing. Had it been the old times like India, they would have built a temple for many of these to give value to it. It is not done today. God is revealing through science. Yesterday, He revealed through Yajna. Day before yesterday, He revealed through meditation. Today he is living through science, accept the spirituality. That whatever coming along, you are giving us the best of things, and we shall not discard them as wrong. No. Science is technology is not wrong. The negative use of it creates the problem. Therefore, when God is giving you the loftiness of science to conquer nature, what is the difference between animal and human beings? Are three, basically. Animals have not developed the brain cerebral capacity to control law of nature, to potentialize nature, to kinetize into it. Like you have a battery, you potentialize the power and kinetize it into it. Animals can't do it. First difference, control the knowledge. Second, is that to have the concept that God exists. The instinctive consciousness, not intellectual consciousness. Therefore, intellectual consciousness created God, although emotional consciousness, spiritual consciousness progressed it. It was intellectual consciousness, growth of Homo sapiens intellect. And the third is, animals don't have a critical human mind. So, the sense of laughter is not there with animals. You don't see a laughing ass. Okay. Although in human society, sometimes you find laughing asses. I don't see. This is the three difference. Between a human, this is the development. Now it is the fourth human race. I've already written in mind. The fifth human race is coming. As the nature is developing, I mean, it is starting in a new world, new species coming, starting in US, Australia. I've already written all these details, where and how. The cerebral capacity will grow higher. In future, they will be communicating. So looks and through by brain waves only. These are already 10 years, 15 years before. A new life form is coming. A new capacities will be generated tomorrow. If the nature becomes inadequate to support us, the human society will create, innovate to adjust with them. Oh, imagine when the people say the earth will be, all human species will die, this, all, that, all. When there is no technology, no science, not even God for the Iron Man, then the worst scenario of nature or dinosaur or somebody moving away with 2 million years at this time, even then they survived. Do you think the human society with all this will get extinguished? No. Because God is ruling through science and technology. That's what I'm exactly saying. We will not make those differences. He's a science means he doesn't believe in God in the way you are believing. Give the democracy of belief. And one is right. If he is not believing in the way I am believing, but then he is creating, helping, he is believing in himself. That self itself is nothing but the post of God. Okay. So in the theory of independent, like individual freedom, there must be freedom of thought, of acceptance of divinity in some manner. And we shall not, Master has said, don't criticize any other master, any religion, any concept. You want your food, you want to have pizza, you add pizza. Don't criticize sandwich. Somebody is having. Okay. So similarly, the little that we can do, we should not hurt the feeling of others. In beliefs, especially, never. So, my right to swing my arm, freedom, must end where your nose begins. Okay, Kim? Okay, that will never happen. So that is what with this assimilation process of others takes you, and not divisiveness is what takes you beyond the problem. Assimilation is the key. Didn't you see what will happen to Sikhism? Sikhism, the beauty is completely broken all the castes, put them together for setting the country. Even they cut down all the surnames which will indicate a caste. Complete. In fact, their marriages, everything is focused to the Guru. I go to Guru. I read Satpathy and everything. If any Sikhism had managed the quintessence as a system of the true Guru Pratha, if that is the Sikhism in India. In India's context, I'm telling you. Everything focused there. Every religion goes through a little aberration. That's done by Hinduism, a lot of aberrations. I mean. But we have to see beyond what is the themes. What is the sustaining actually? The sustaining principle. That if that is strong, look, let me say, what is the system exactly defined as? When group of people take any activity, there are supposed to be contradictions and aberrations. A system is a structure for containment of those aberrations and contradictions. The moment it is failing to contain that, then the system will get changed. You better change it or get changed. No. This Hinduism has running, Sikhism running, Buddhism running. They are containing themselves and flowing from time in a lot of time and future. That is when we are a particular analyzed small particles of time hanging in the space. Someone wrote, I read my child. When I was a child, I read a poem. I read this, which I repeat. Somebody having thinking all lofty things of life, ultimately says, thus runs my dream, but what am I? Thus all the great things. Thus runs my dream, but what am I? A child crying in the night. A child crying in the night. A child crying for the light with no language but a cry. Thus runs my dream, but what am I? A child crying in the night. A child crying for the light with no language but a cry. Thank you. Jai Shri Sai.
Thank you, Guruji. May there be divinity in our life. May there be ego subdued in our daily living. And may there be pure thoughts in our daily thinking. With that wish, once again, thank you so much. You flew in 15,000 miles to make our life little brighter, little easier, and I hope, I don't know when you will be again here in Seattle, but we would definitely wish that we should be 261st or 262nd of those centers you have been leading throughout this world. Ladies and gentlemen, with that note, that is the end of first Washington State Summit of US-India Trade. I thank you so much for flying from thousands and thousands of miles. Some of you have come from Toronto, Canada, England, India, wherever you are from. We are deeply grateful to you. And from our bottom of heart, we again express our gratitude and gratefulness to Guruji. Jai Shri Sai.